and roll, Chicago. Rock and roll, Chicago, my hometown. Well, I was born in the city, gonna rock your city, Chicago. Chicago rock and rollers are the best you're ever around.
Hey, this is Paul Martin
And Ray the Roadie.
for the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. How are you, Ray?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good, Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful, that's right.
Yeah.
You're dead to me.
Yeah, there is Mr. Wonderful, isn't there?
That's right.
That's Shark Tank, isn't he?
I'm out.
I'm out.
Because of that, I'm out. That's
For that
right.
reason, I'm out.
That's it. And and if I do remain staying here, I want it in perpetuity.
That's right. You want to say what?
How many people learned what perpetuity was?
I don't know.
Just from that show. I bet you most people didn't even know what that word was until they watched it and said, "What?"
Yeah, I haven't looked it up recently.
No, but I know some bands that I think are going to go on in perpetuity.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's a few of them out there that I think will be around for quite a long time, and there's probably going to even be some new ones popping out too.
Probably, and I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Maggie Speaks of
Empire,
right? The Maggie Speaks Empire, correct?
That's right. We were fortunate enough to speak with Dave Calzaretta, founder, performer, businessman extraordinaire.
Owner.
The guy's busy. Yeah, he's owner.
Right.
Yeah, he's very, very busy.
Of Maggie Speaks and of Magnificent Events, and he's got a lot going on, even during the pandemic.
Yeah, most people are just sitting still and taking their time. He's busy working.
Yes, he is.
Let's go see what he had to say about what he's been doing so many months.
Okay, let's do it right now. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show today. Today we're speaking with lead singer and and founder of Maggie Speaks and the owner and founder of Magnificent Events, Dave Calzaretta. How you doing today, Dave?
I'm doing good. Is that foreshadowing of former?
No. I can't read my own handwriting is what it is.
Work anymore.
No, I can't read my own handwriting is what it is.
Something I don't know about yet.
Yeah, pretty much everybody's a former now because nobody's playing.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us about your roots and how you got started in the business and how things got started. I know your dad played music, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I come from a musical family on my dad's side. He had a singing group called the Highlights in Chicago in the mid to late 50s. And they were, a doo-wop group similar to the Four Aces and the Four Lads and the Crew Cuts and the Lettermen and groups like that. And they had a record deal with Bally Records. So my dad and my uncle were in the group along with a couple other of their neighborhood friends. They had a song called City of Angels that went to number 16 or 18 nationally on the Billboard charts, and then number 3 in Chicago. Well, Elvis Presley had number 1 and 2 at the time. And so, music was always kind of in my life, and I always sang, but in grade school, I was an athlete, and it wasn't cool to be in chorus and all that stuff until 8th grade when the basketball team came to me and said, hey, we're trying out for the musical this year. I said, okay. And we happened to be doing a, junior high production of Grease. And I got one of the lead roles and had 3 solos in it. And, just really fell in love with performing. And, it was kind of interesting because all of a sudden at that age, it became very cool to sing. And, so I started playing in bands in high school, played bass guitar, more out of necessity than anything else in that.
That's what I was going to add. I thought you were a bass guitarist.
Yeah, I basically in high school, you just gathered any musicians that knew how to play anything and, started a band. So we had 2 guys that knew how to play drums. So we used to rent a bass from, the local music store, and I had a good ear, so I'd kind of listen for the parts and pick them out and kind of taught myself, and then I'd teach it to the spare drummer. And after a few months of doing that, the light bulb went off and said, hey, why don't I just do this myself instead of learning it and teaching it to somebody? So I started playing bass, and then did that all through high school with various bands, and you try to get gigs anywhere you could. The Just Say No rally in the in the community, or the high school battle of the bands and things like that. Then I went off to college at Indiana University. I joined a fraternity, so I led our serenades, and there was something called IU Sing that was a big, production show that you did with, I paired with a sorority for, so I was a leader for that. Played in a couple pickup bands there, and then, after that, my degree's in accounting, and I have my CPA and passed the CPA exam and stuff. So I started as a financial analyst for General Mills in Minneapolis. Played in a little band that did like a couple gigs there, and then I moved back after a year and got a job doing intellectual property financial consulting, and wound up answering an ad in the Reader, I believe, it was either the Entertainer or the Reader, for two brothers looking to start a band. One played guitar and keys and sang, and the other played drums. And they said they were looking for a singing bass player. So I went and played with them, and we had a good time, decided to start a band together. And we were deciding on names, and, when you're 24 years old in 1998, we were big Simpsons fans and South Park fans. So we were kind of down between Maggie Speaks and They Killed Kenny for our names. And so we wound up with Maggie Speaks. I literally lost a coin flip for whose number went on the bottom of our demo CD to get bookings. So I became the booking guy because I lost the coin flip, not because I won. And we started performing, doing anything from little 3-piece acoustic shows all the way up to we've had different iterations of Maggie Speaks, where we'd have 6 guys, 5 guys, then and then we had some turnover, and we're down to 3 guys at one point, and so different iterations over the years and everything. But now Maggie Speaks has been around for 22 years and played close to probably over 3,600 shows during that stretch of time, and we replicated and started other bands within our brand. So we have Spoken For and Final Say, Shout Out, and Enough Said. And then we started our big band, Talk of the Town, where we can go up to 15 pieces with multiple singers, horns, strings, etc.
Are any of the original guys that you played with, the twins or the brothers that you said, are they still involved with it at all? Or?
No, I'm the only original guy left, but Blake Cooper, our drummer's been with me for 20 years, and then I was fired as bass player about 6 years into the project, and but retained as the lead singer and frontman. And Sean Summers been, with us for 16 years probably. And then our guitar player Sam, for a while he was the Grover Cleveland of the band. That he was in from 2004 to 2008, and then 2012, so he's on his third 4-year term. And then Nicole, our female singer, I think has been in the band since, probably for about 9 years now. So
that's Nicole Varga, right?
Varza.
Varza, I'm sorry. She's a Northwest Indiana girl, isn't she?
Correct.
Yeah, I know Nicole. I've had the opportunity to work with her a few times. But as a matter of fact, I've had the opportunity to work with several of your bands. I ran sound at Blue Chip Casino for many years.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But now I noticed that you've listed in some of your videos, you've listed Shane and Blake and as owners. Now, explain that to me.
Yeah, I mean, we started when I started the band and stuff, I mean, we basically are just partners in business. So that I run the business side of things, and they kind of run in a restaurant fashion. They handle a lot of the back of the house stuff while I'm running a lot of the booking and marketing and front facing stuff. So
And now with some of the other bands with Shout Out and Final Say and Spoken For, now you've obviously had the opportunity to hire many musicians. And how many can you tell me that you probably hired for those bands? I mean, have you got a fraternity of people that come in and out and play when they need to play? And
yeah, I mean, all of those bands have a base of 5 people in them. So there's, a core of 25 musicians that, work for me. And then, when we expand to the big band format, with keys and horns and strings, it expands past that. It's hard to say how many. I mean, over the year, we may have 50 different musicians that work for us depending on the need. And then a lot of times we'll have we do a lot of customization and specialty shows where, we'll bring in specialists that play certain things really well if we're doing a theme show or something like that.
Is that where the celebrity sit-ins come in?
Yeah, that's one of them. I mean, I started working on that program late in 2017, and it, developed quite well where, there's a host of singers out there that, maybe had 4, 5, 6 hits kind of thing. And perhaps it's not as, financially feasible for clients to fly in their whole band and stuff, or maybe they're not looking for a full concert from that band and they just want the short attention span blast of like, hey, here's Mark McGrath's 4 big hits from Sugar Ray, and then let us carry the rest of the night. And so we've had a really good run, and I've built up quite a network with, working with different singers and former lead singers of just, bands that I grew up sitting in the crowd for when I was a teenager at major stadiums. And so it's been kind of cool to get a chance to perform around the globe with these guys and develop the relationships and friendships with them.
And with Magnificent Events, you've managed to book some big shows as well too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, kind of the highlights throughout time, Lionel Richie was one that was, really kind of a crowning moment for me, that getting to book him at a private event. Bare Naked Ladies, Colby Calais, Big and Rich. I've had a really great opportunity to work with lots of great bands, and Casey and the Sunshine Band, the Spinners, the Temptations, groups like that. So.
Now with the Temptations, I know you've had a personal relationship with the late Richard Street, but can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the most unlikely of friendships that you'll ever hear about in the history of the world. But back in 1987, 88, my dad was watching a HBO special called Temps and Tops, and it was about to come on, and it was about the Temptations and Four Tops. And he said, hey, why don't you come and sit down with me and watch? And I did. I was 14 years old at the time. And I said, Dad, I really like this music afterwards. And my dad was always one of those people that is my best friend, the greatest dad in the world. Just lost him in January and stuff. But, he found out when they were coming to town. And so he took me to Poplar Creek to see the Temptations. And they had a part in their show where you could jump up and sing, they picked 6 people from the crowd to jump up and do a verse of My Girl with them. Well, I kind of filed that in the memory bank and stuff. And then the next time they came into town, they were at the Erie Crown Theater. And so we went again, and, I have this weird photographic memory. And so we kind of went to, they went to the song before, I'd remembered what it was and told my dad, hey, I'll be right back. And he thought I was going to the bathroom. And he said, next thing I know, you're on stage with them and singing. And, the first 5 people, were not very good. And I was just up there going, just please hold down the note. Please hold down the note. And, so I wound up singing with them, and, I was kind of the novelty act. I was a 14-year-old kid in a predominantly African-American auditorium that night. And, it was really, really fun and really out of left field. And so every time they'd come into town, I would go and I would jump up and sing with them. And I developed a relationship with Richard Street that was in the group from 1971 to 1993, and, won a Grammy for Papa Was a Rolling Stone and was one of their, main singers. And, so that lasted all through high school, kind of lost touch a little, this is all before cell phones and email and stuff, and, lost touch a little bit during college. And then when I got out and came back, I started getting into music, and I started doing bookings, and I was booking for 115 Bourbon Street, and they wanted to do a big, I think it was either a 5-year anniversary at that point, or, I'm pretty sure it was their 5-year. And so I, just through Googling, well, I wasn't even Googling at the time, but just through, surfing the internet, I tracked down where Richard was, because he had left the Temptations and he'd started his own group of Temptations. And I found where he was and, booked him for that. And as he flew in from the airport, I went to pick him up, and I was dealing with his manager and stuff, so he didn't know it was me. And he got off the plane, and I had the sign that said Richard Street at the airport at O'Hare. And he looked at me, he goes, man, is that you? And I'm like, yeah, Rich, that's me. He's like, man, I haven't seen you in years. And so he kind of just became, I called him my West Coast dad and my mentor. And, whenever I'd have him, I became pretty intimately involved in booking his calendar, and, would do probably 15 dates a year at least with him. And anytime he came into Chicago, he's like, don't put me at a hotel. I'm staying at your house. And bounced my kids on his knee, and they call him Uncle Richard and stuff. And, it evolved into where he played at my wedding, and I sang at his wedding with some of the other Temptations. And then when he passed away, he actually passed away on my birthday, which I also shared with his wife. We had the same birthday, and, I was a pallbearer at his funeral and stuff like that. So, it was just a really strange, unlikely, to watch a TV show and go, I like that. And I'm sitting in Northbrook, Illinois, and to become, one of my best friends in the world, it's kind of surreal to me. So.
Yeah, I know you had a relationship with him. I worked for a little bit with Casey Audio. I remember working. I did actually backline for a couple of shows that you did, and that they did with Junior Walker's All Stars too as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But that's a great story. It's a very great story. Now to get back to Maggie Speaks, tell us a little bit about the band, about how the energy that you guys provide. And I know you play festivals, you play weddings, you play clubs, you kind of do it all. And you played, like you said, around the country and around the world, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of built this up. At the beginning when we first started, we just played whatever we wanted to play. And then as you did live shows and started observing what was working and what wasn't working, we felt a lot better when we were doing interactive, like dance shows where people could get out on the floor and populate it, as opposed to it, and so we just really became known for trying to build medleys and string together. And like, I hate dead air. Like if I have 3 seconds between a song, and my musicians sometimes get frustrated with me because 3 seconds to me seems like standing in line at the DMV. We've learned to, build shows and string them together so that it just, doesn't give people an opportunity to leave the dance floor. And we've really catered our set towards what's going to engage the audience as opposed to like, well, what's my favorite thing to play? So we started out in the nightclubs and then, made the natural transition to festivals, and we would play colleges and stuff. So those people would see us and they started asking us to play their weddings because they said, well, you were my band at college. I don't want the band that played my parents' wedding to do mine. I want to do what's right for me. And so we would do that. And then, we had some corporations that came to see us at some of the nightclub shows. And, we've been fortunate now to have, kind of a who's who of the Fortune 5 for sales incentive trips and stuff, that we've been in 13 different countries and 33 different states at this point. And we've played in Shanghai and in Rome and Sydney, Australia, and Venice and Monte Carlo and Barcelona, Istanbul. So we've had some pretty great, dream clients that have allowed us to see the world performing music. And, it's been really great.
Road to Rock Radio is proud to welcome Paul Martin of M&R Rush and the Dancing Noodles and Ray the Roadie, the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. Join Paul and Ray as they bring you weekly interviews from bands that have rocked Chicago. It's the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast, Monday night at 6 on Road to Rock Radio.
This is Paul Martin.
And Ray the Roadie, and we're here to talk to you about GHS strings.
That's right, Ray. Whether you play electric guitar, acoustic, or bass,
or even banjo, mandolin, or ukulele, then GHS has the strings for you.
GHS strings are easy to play with a rich, full balanced tone available in many different gauges.
Great for all musical styles, so if you play
with the best. Play GHS strings.
The other bands came about from basically a need where you guys couldn't perform for a lot of your clients.
Yeah, I mean, I started Spoken For in 2006 because Maggie was doing 200 shows a year. We were getting 20 calls on a Saturday, and a Hall of Famer in baseball goes 3 for 10, and hits 300, right? Well, it's not really hard to go 1 for 20. And so we were just realizing that we kind of came around at the right time on the market where, the only other options were big orchestras with 15 people. And that just wasn't what people were, younger people were really listening to at the time. And so it was an opportunity for us to penetrate that wedding market as a small band that also had some public cachet with, playing high profile clubs and festivals and stuff. So it created a different energy. And, we were finding that if we were already booked, our clients were asking us, well, who would you recommend if you can't do it? And, cause I want something like you. And I said, it just dawned on me. It's like, well, I don't know why, but there isn't something like what we're doing right now. So, as a business person, it was simple supply and demand that, if there's more demand than supply, then you need to create more supply. Well, I could have waited around for somebody else to figure out what I was doing and do it, or I could do it myself. So we hired 5, at the time it was 4, but we hired, replicated our concept and hired guys and to work for us to basically do, the whole concept was that each band does the same song, same arrangement, same instrumentation, so that if we were booked, the clients had another option. So we started Spoken For in 2006, and they wound up doing close to 100 shows in their first year. And then we got a call in early 2007 from Eric Ferguson's wife, from Eric and Kathy at the Mix, 1019, the morning ride DJs. And his wife said, hey, I've seen your band and you play all the stuff that Eric plays on the Mix, and it's his 40th birthday party. I'm throwing him a surprise thing. Will you play it? And I said, yeah, sure. It looks great. What's the date? And they told us a date in January, which got me even more excited because normally those are great to fill with private parties. And I happened to look at the calendar and both bands were booked. And I was like on the phone with them and I said, shoot, in my head. And I said, we can do it. I said, well, Maggie's booked, but we've got our other band that we own. And she said, that'll be great. And I called my partners, and both Spoken For and Maggie Speaks were booked. And I called them. I said, we have to start another band. And we just started one. I said, well, we need to start a third one. And I figured what better way to launch it than to play on, Eric's birthday, where he'd be talking about it on the radio for the week after. So we started Final Say. The band had its first gig before it even had any members in it and existed. So, that was kind of a neat transition to building and selling concepts before they actually existed. And then we went for a number of years with the three bands until I think about 2014, when we found that there was, I think what happened was during the recession of 2009, we actually really thrived during that time because we were right sized for it. We were only four and five pieces at the time. And so, corporations that used to hire, Kenny Loggins and Jimmy Buffett and Earth, Wind and Fire, couldn't get caught doing that kind of stuff because of perception at that time. I always remember watching the executives to AIG after laying off 4,000 people walking out of a sales trip with Jimmy Buffett playing, with cameras in their face, saying, how come you hired Jimmy Buffett for $1 million but fired 4,000 people? So corporations started hiring us during that time because they still wanted to have events, but we weren't going to land you on CNN. We would fly under the radar. And I think in any crisis, and this is what we're seeing now with COVID, it's what we saw with 9/11, it's what we saw with the financial recession, that during any crisis, there's opportunity that comes from that. And, what comes out on the other side isn't always what went into it beforehand, and it looks different on the other side. And so I think a lot of companies realize that, their employees responded better to a dance variety corporate band than, a bunch of 20-somethings watching Earth, Wind and Fire, who's fantastic, but it doesn't resonate with them. And so, we kind of moved in that direction and really were right-sized for 2009. And then, once that recovered, we were able to create a couple more bands. And then I think even still, as the economy surged, we finally got into the big band market, which we'd resisted for a long time because we were realizing a lot of our high net worth clients that we were developing wanted the visual and the grand show of having 15 people on stage. So we were losing that business to other bands. They were like, well, if you had more people, we'd hire you. But, so we kind of found a niche there as well. And then that aspect of it has really taken off. And, and one thing, it's a puzzle piece. One thing leads to another. That's what led to our celebrity sit-in model, is realizing that it's way more effective to have, Steve Augeri from Journey come in, formerly of Journey, come in and do, 6 big Journey songs and then let us do the rest of the night. And crowd's happy because they saw one of the real guys doing the real thing. And then they get to see, but they don't have to sit and listen to one thing all night, because social media and YouTube and anything tells you people's attention spans are shorter than gnats right now. So
you literally put these bands together. These are not bands that existed and you just brought on board. You actually hired the musicians and put it together.
Correct. Yeah, we would go out and we would, as you get more known in the industry, the community becomes smaller to you, and you know who all the top level guys are, and having work is what trumps everything, basically. Musicians need to work, and so if you have the work, you're able to work with a high quality group of people. And so we would just go out, and we knew what chairs we needed to fill. And, sometimes we do an audition, and, but it was always typically a non-advertised audition, because, you have to weed through a lot of hobbyists and, skill levels if you just throw an ad in the paper. And basically, we would view it as almost like a headhunter or recruiting firm would go about finding an executive. They don't sit and post something on Indeed.com if they're hiring a CEO. They use a search firm, and that's kind of what we became, when it came to musicians.
You don't have to be beautiful to turn me on. Just need your body, baby, from dusk till dawn. You don't have to be rich to be my girl. You don't have to be cool to rule my world. Ain't no particular sign more compatible with. I just want your extra time and your kiss. All right, everybody. What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. And all I'm asking is for the respect.
Around the world stuff came through the corporate world, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We did our first big travel corporate client was Mopar, the parts division of Chrysler before the auto collapse happened. And, one of their executives saw us at the Cubby Bear and came up to me after being at the Cubs game all day and watching us play and said, I'm going to take you to Denver. I'll call you Monday. And I was like, yeah, here's my card, thinking this guy will never remember. And 8 a.m. came Monday morning and my phone rang and I was summoned out of bed with an offer to go play the Bonepar Mile High Nationals. And, it went really, really well. And they started using us for other performances and, traveled us to, Cabo San Lucas. And I remember sitting there with the corporate entertainment producer, with the external producer for Chrysler. And I said, we were sitting on the beach and I said to her, how do I get more of you? And she goes, what? And I said, that's not what I meant. I said, I like the fact that we get to fly to cool places and play cool shows. Are there more people that do what you do and hire bands like this for other companies? And she really helped me get networked, joining some industry associations and wandering onto the board of directors and getting to know that community of, producers that, work for big clients like that. And so, we latched on to a few different ones. Somebody took us to the Bahamas and it went really well and they started using us at everything that they did. And sometimes, in business, the power of no is understated in that, one year this client changed for the sake of change and they had an event down in Miami where they decided not to use us. And they said, you guys have been great, but we just want to try something new. And it went horribly wrong for them. And it was a really terrible event. And the CEO the next day said, I don't care what you do, you get Maggie Speaks back and they're performing next year in Sydney, Australia for us because we have to get this event back on track. And so we went to Australia and, we haven't missed one since. With that client, we've been to Shanghai, we've been to Hawaii numerous times, we've been to Monte Carlo and Venice and Rome. And, it's just been a really surreal experience, sometimes I don't sit back enough and soak it all in. But when I was about to perform in Rome, I walked out to warm up my throat on the balcony of this castle that we were playing at. And I looked out and I was overlooking the Vatican. And I said, you know what, just breathe and let yourself take this in and enjoy this one because this one's special. So.
Is it just Maggie Speaks that does those, or does Final Say, Spoken For, and the other bands do it as well?
Yeah, all of our bands have pretty much traveled, and a lot of our clients, will have multiple casts of 16 out, our Talk of the Town big bands. So I think, pretty much everybody that's been in our organizations has got to participate in some of these travel trips. And most of the times we're building custom theme shows for them where we have, a disco night or a country night or whatever. So, it's a great opportunity to be creative and write a show and be part of their, the company's production team of how do we take your idea and craft it and support it? And what people do we need to, we're not going to bring an R&B singer in, that if we're doing a country night, we're going to find the right guy to pair with that and stuff. So, we've had a great opportunity to give a lot of musicians the opportunity to see the world. And it's, I'm really proud of that.
So now when, I know you're constantly updating music and learning new material. And if you want to learn a new song, how do you work it with all the bands? I mean, does Maggie Speaks learn it, and then you send it off to the other bands to learn, or does somebody from another band, for instance, suggest something?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a super formal process to it. We try and keep our eye on the charts and the radio waves to hear, what's popular. And, sometimes we'll just send an email around saying like, hey, we're adding this to the catalog. Please make sure you guys all are prepared for that. And then a lot of times, we'll get requests for weddings and things like that maybe not all the bands learn, but some of them have to learn, or one of them has to learn. So it's an organic process of, we do our best to share information between bands. We do, regular, monthly band leader calls, where we have all our guys on the line and we talk about, well, hey, what's working for you? Oh, I played this Bruno Mars song. Well, great. Should everybody be playing it? Yes. And we'll circulate it around that way. So
have you yourself ever written any material or written any original material?
Yeah. It's not something I've done in a long time, but I had 3 original songs come out in a movie called The Hard Easy. A couple of my buddies from high school, it was their first feature film that they produced, and it was an HBO DVD release. And it was kind of cool. It was writing by assignment in that, like, they had placeholders in their movie of like actual songs that they budget wise they couldn't afford the licensing for. So the opening scene they had "Wouldn't It Be Nice" by the Beach Boys, which would have blown their whole budget and then some times, however many times. So I wrote a song that kind of had that feel, and that I think I had 78 tracks of vocals in it. I just tried to capture the essence of the spirit of that song, and they kind of gave me direction on what they needed. So that was kind of neat. The movie had a pretty good cast in it. It had Bruce Dern and Vera Farmiga, Gary Busey, Peter Weller from RoboCop, Henry Thomas from E.T., David Boreanaz, probably Nick Lachey was in it. So it had some names. It was a great experience. I enjoyed it, and I think I'd like at some point to write again. I find that I do it best by somebody telling me what they want me to write, as opposed to, I'm feeling or whatever. And but I just honestly have been so busy since then that I haven't really gone down that path. And maybe something in the future.
Well, how are the bands and magnificent events, for that matter, surviving COVID? And have the bands been able to play it all this summer?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously an unprecedented time and the most difficult time. I tell people that, this industry was the first domino to fall, and it's going to be the last one to be set back up, because, we rely on mass gatherings for the most part in close proximities, and a lot of indoor stuff, and, basically everything, whether you sit on the side of science or politics or whatever with all of this stuff, that's neither here nor there. But basically we've seen, our shows decrease by 90% and stuff this year. Maggie Speaks has been doing a lot of virtual galas and stuff, where we've done a bunch of shelter-in-place videos for galas that have gone online, and they want to do, a couple songs to kick off the gala, one in the middle to energize it, one at the end to wrap it up, that kind of stuff. So, we've been able to do probably, 15, 16 different videos for people, just to keep out there.
Help, help, what's the matter with your
summer there was some smaller festival work and I picked up my bass guitar for the first time in 16 years and did some acoustic trio stuff with Dave Carl and Jimmy Riley, who Jimmy used to play for me and has his own band now, and Dave plays in Final Say in our Eagles tribute band as well. So there was some patio work. Everything's kind of shut down again, but I'm actually in the process of building up a duplicate of the operation out west right now. So I'm coming to you live from Mesa, Arizona as we speak, and things are a lot different here and a little bit more open. So, like I said, any financial crisis or world crisis, like my dad and I always used to say that in life, we like to look at it as that there's obstacles and not barriers. And so, during COVID, I've been able to take the time to create. My whole career, I've always said, making changes was like trying to change the bus on the tire, or the tire on the bus, while you're driving down the highway. Well, with COVID, the bus is pulled over on the side of the highway. So, I've created a group called Radio Gaga during this time, which is going to be absolutely phenomenal. We've been able to get 3 shows in with that, and I'm just producing on that and not performing in it, but it's a tribute to, it's not even really, I guess you could call it a tribute to Queen and Lady Gaga. And it's, the storyline is in an alternate universe where rock stars are immortal. Freddie Mercury and Lady Gaga meet, become the best of friends, and take their show out on the road together in a Vegas-style production. And so that's been really fun. I was able to create a new Fleetwood Mac tribute called Gold Dust Dreams, and we had 3 shows with that. And then, we're creating something with Maggie Speaks called Retro Music Revival that we're currently in the process of getting video film for. And that's basically taking modern pop songs and doing throwback arrangements into from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So that's kind of neat. And then I also decided I've always wanted to expand the operation out west and never had the right person to do it, and the numbers never made sense if I had to relocate somebody and things like that. And during COVID, I thought, well, what if that person was me? So, I'm in both places right now, flying. I'll be flying back and forth as needed, but I'll be starting operations up out here as well, so that when this comes back, I'll be twice as strong.
That's great. I know you book a lot of venues in the Chicago area too. I know a lot of them have been closed, or some of them partially opened, and I know it's a tough time for everybody. But it's good to see that you're staying busy. How does someone find you on Facebook or on the internet or website?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got MaggieSpeaks.com. We've got MagEvents.com, which is the booking side of things. MaggieSpeaks.com. We have a new website that was created, and so. And we're on all the social platforms with Facebook, and we've got some Instagram presence as well. So we're if you just Google Maggie Speaks or Google Magnificent Events, we'll pop up in various forms.
Well, thanks. It sounds like you keep it busy. Thanks for spending some time with us today, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for giving an opportunity for musicians to be heard in a time when there's silence. So
well, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to keep some things alive and continued success with everything that you're doing as well.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So that was Dave Calzaretta of Maggie Speaks and Magnificent Events. And Dave's a busy guy, isn't he, Ray?
He sure is. He did not. This pandemic did not stop or slow him down one iota.
I like the one comment that he said, that this is this pandemic, this business of music business and music industry, with the first, how do you put it? The first domino fell, and the last domino to be set up again, which is very true. Very true.
Very true. Very true. That's Exactly. Nobody's working, and
First domino to fall, last one to be put up. Yeah, it's great.
that's right. That's right.
And
hopefully it won't be much longer.
hopefully we've got some
Killers, vaccinations.
vaccinations. That's
Yeah,
what
they're
I'm
coming.
looking
So why don't we take this show on the road? How come we never travel abroad?
for. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because we interview people from Chicago. That's why.
We can interview them from elsewhere. We could be in Stockholm and Zoom interview them.
No, we don't want to go to Sweden. Sweden's got a rate to get it's going through the roof up there.
Yeah. We can go to Antarctica.
Okay.
I don't think there's much
Greenland.
problem down Greenland. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Iceland.
All right, you go ahead and book that. Let me know when you get it booked.
I will. I'll get us on a 737 MAX.
Okay.
All righty then.
One with no COVID on it.
No COVID. That's right.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
We just take our life in our hands any which way we can, huh?
Yeah, but your luggage flies free.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm. And there's nobody in the middle seat. All righty.
All right.
Well, that was fun. Thank you once again, Dave, for joining us. And everybody out there, don't forget, you can find us on the Road to Rock radio every Monday night at 6 p.m. They feature one of our podcasts. Give it a listen.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Next week, every Tuesday.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast does not own the rights to any of the music that's played on this podcast.
The music is used to promote the band or musicians that are interviewed.
Rock and roll Chicago. Rock and roll